The blocking system in ESBC will change combat sports gaming forever. First, I want to discuss a recent common notion. The notion that the blocking system is simply the same system from Fight Night Round 3. I'm here to tell you that although there was clearly a subtle inspiration, this statement cannot be further from the truth. Here are the differences in the 6-point block system from ESBC versus the 6-axis blocking from Fight Night Round 3. In Fight Night Round 3, it's not physics based. Therefore, its defensive capabilities become one-dimensional and not as fluid or creatively abundant as the 6-point block system that we see in ESBC. And I'll explain. Here you can see that Bernard can only move immediately from one corner to the other and isn't allowed to create blocking angles and range by being able to move from one corner gradually to the other, covering multiple hit points that can be protected, allowing for much greater range and defensive angles via the guard. But because the game isn't based in physics for the contact, even if he could cover those gaps, it wouldn't matter because as long as he is not set, the punch will land. Also, you can see when a punch lands, it doesn't block, but instead it parries, creating an unrealistic slow motion effect for the opponent. This constant abrupt halt to punches and combos made it very overpowered and not a fun experience for the opponent, as all you needed to do was guess if your opponent was going to throw the left or the right and at what level. You had a 1 in 4 chance of creating a parry, which is incredibly unrealistic. Now we will take a deeper dive into what can be possibly the best blocking we have ever seen when given full control of the physics system via your defense. Before we dive in, I do want to remind everyone that as long as your arms are in the way, your fighter will block the attack. The block button does not necessarily need to be in action for this to happen, as seen here. This is full physics, and this opens up the floor for creativity. Let's start with Arthur's full guard. In the first 34 frames from when the block button was pressed, you can see that Arthur defaults to a full guard defense of his head. His guard isn't super high and sits right below his eyebrows. This indicates that different fighters will have different blocking styles even for the same blocking defense, like the full guard, as Oakley carries a much higher guard. But this does not automatically mean that Oakley has a better defense, because his body becomes much more available and will require more frames to get from its full guard location down to the body to protect it. Arthur will have to try to compensate for the gaps from his eyebrow to the top of his head by leaning back or forward to cover more defensive range within his guard. Here you can see Arthur leaning back and his guard raising up above the eyebrow, protecting more of his head. Here you can see a different angle and can see that more of his head is protected as the gloves clearly pass his eyebrows. The limitation, however, is that you cannot walk and lean at the same time. You will have to create the appropriate reads to ensure that you can move, see a head combination or attack coming, and quickly lean, then quickly release the lean to re-engage your mobility. Timing will be key to succeeding, and being able to seamlessly move quickly from leaning to continual walking. Also, when Arthur does this, he sacrifices more of his body to his opponent and will have to lean forward to adjust if attacked downstairs, or lower his guard using manual control, but this will leave his head more exposed. Again, you must be able to read your opponent to be in the best defensive position. His guard also goes higher when he blocks one side via manual blocking, and that can also be an alternative way to protect your head above your eyebrow. But of course, one side of his head will be completely exposed. The trade-off is that the diagonal body location will be protected, giving your opponent only the center head, other side of the body, and opposite side of the head as available targets. This can be a tactical, intelligent maneuver if you're creative enough to set traps, as doing this can elicit a reaction from your opponent that you can more easily expect. Because you have eliminated two targets, this can condition someone to attack the open targets, effectively reducing the possible attack lanes and giving you an ability to capitalize. How can you capitalize, you ask? Well, there are various ways you can counter, but let's focus on one very creative and smart way using the physics system. Parries. That's right, parries. Believe it or not, parries can also be creatively done using the manual block system. However, unlike Fight Night Round 3, the timing and reaction is much more realistic. Due to the physics-based design of the game, if at any point your gloves, arms, or shoulders block contact to your head or body, a counter will be available. This is seen multiple times in the trailer and can be easily spotted by the white flash that indicates a successful counter attack. With the revolutionary counter system, you can trap your opponent by resting your glove in one direction, and then as a jab or straight shoots down the center, you can quickly change your guard direction to slap the punch and initiate your counter, essentially using the physics and manual blocking to set up a creative parry. This was also seen in the trailer. With all of this, you can also add leaning plus manual blocking to create a wide range of points and locations on the body and head to protect. It's truly groundbreaking. Now, let's talk about the Philly shell. To the naked eye, it would look as if the Philly shell hasn't been displayed, but that is not the case. We need to start moving away from what we have been accustomed to in the past, the traditional way of blocking in video games, because when contact physics meets a combat game, you are only truly limited by your imagination. Let's take a quick look. Lyndon Arthur is clearly utilizing the Philly shell in this trailer, and there are so many ways to activate the defense that you are looking for. Also, it appears that the Philly shell fighters will likely carry the lower full guard, but be able to block both the body and head simultaneously, albeit diagonally. But those who have the traditional higher guard will not be able to block the body and head so easily when transitioning from one to the other. One of the main tactics for the Philly shell is to consistently protect the body. And as we know, the block button does not need to be involved when it comes to blocking. You can use clever understanding of your fighter's mannerisms and movement style to block at will. For example, it is clear that when Lyndon Arthur moves very slowly, his shell stance becomes much tighter, creating a difficult target to hit for the body. When you begin to speed up, the tight guard starts to widen, leaving you more open. A smart tactic would be to move quickly, then as soon as you see your opponent ready to attack the body, immediately reduce your speed to the slowest walking pace to catch the attack on the arms. It is clear that when standing still, your Philly shell stance is wide, so you want to keep moving to ensure that your body is protected. Slipping also creates arm positioning that you can take advantage of, slipping and moving your arm in the way of the punches as seen here. And of course, you can roll your shoulder forward to catch and shoot. Slipping backwards or leaning back using the slipping mechanic allows for your right hand to drop, also protecting the body. The Philly shell also has different variations. As you can see, Recall has a much tighter Philly stance that protects the body when walking. With this understanding of how movement works, you can be creative and effective. One example, while moving forward quickly towards your opponent, you may be tempted to instantly slow down by stepping back. But because weight has to shift and your fighter will stop and shift his weight, which will create around 58 frames of lag before you are in a more defensive position, a smarter workaround would be to continue forward but reduce your speed, or move forward and diagonally to avoid the weight shifting animation. Creativity is key when it comes to a physics-based system. There is just so much you can do. Another example of this is one really creative tactical use of the Philly shell. You can use Lyndon Arthur's toggle loose movement to open your body up to your opponent, making it much more inviting. Move towards your opponent with your hands down, then read his attack and quickly toggling back to normal stance while switching to moving slowly towards him, allowing you to catch and shoot after you protect the body simply by creating a clever trap that your opponent did not expect. Combining mannerisms and movement with quick presses of the manual blocking can essentially give you full control of the Philly shell, as long as you're quick, clever, and can use your imagination. The possibilities are endless, and I truly believe that from what we've seen so far, the blocking in ESBC will be the most revolutionary blocking system ever seen in a video game, and I for one cannot wait. Until next time, I'm Boxing Fanatico, and I'm out.